So picture this. It's a scenario that's probably playing out in your company right this very second. You're charging your customers by the user seat, right? But your newly integrated AI just eliminated the need for half of their team to ever even log in. Well, if that sounds familiar, I've got some brutally honest news for you. Your pricing model, it's officially obsolete. Today, we're unpacking a massive tectonic shift in the software industry. We're looking at exactly why traditional pricing is completely falling apart in the age of agentic AI, and why outcome-based pricing is taking over the whole shebang. Okay, let's dive into this, because the core problem here is fundamentally mathematical. See, for the last 20 years, the math behind building a successful SaaS company was incredibly simple. It was the classical SaaS formula. Get more people to log into your software, you make more money. Boom. Entire billion-dollar empires were built just by charging a monthly fee for every single seat or user license. But AI agents completely invert this scale formula. It's a total 180. As your AI gets smarter and more autonomous, the number of human users required to actually do the job decreases. Think about it. If you build this incredible AI agent that automates the work of, say, 10 customer support reps, your client doesn't need to buy 10 extra seats from you. No, they need to cancel 10 of them. And your revenue absolutely crashes. We're stepping into an era where you are literally actively punished for building a great product that automates human busy work. And look, this isn't just some far-off future prediction. It is happening right now. According to the 2025 State of B2B Monetization report from Growth Unhinged, seat-based pricing dropped from 21% to just 15% of companies in a 12-month span. That is a massive, sudden plunge. Buyers are waking up, you guys. They're looking at their software bills and flat out refusing to pay for human seats when an AI is doing all the heavy lifting in the background. Which brings us to our first big hurdle, the usage pricing trap, and why activity really isn't the same as value. So because seat-based pricing is actively failing, the tech industry kind of panicked, and their knee-jerk reaction was to pivot to a completely different model, consumption-based pricing. Suddenly, we started charging customers for every API call, every compute minute, every single token processed by the large language model. Now, on the surface, this might actually seem fair, right? You use more compute, you pay more. But there's a massive flaw here. When you charge by the token, the relationship between the resources consumed and the actual value delivered becomes completely opaque to the buyer. Because of wild variations in prompt design, retrieval quality, and just general model behavior, it's virtually impossible for a company to accurately forecast what their costs are going to be. And that leads to a really uncomfortable question for the industry. Let me ask you this directly. If a human consultant confidently gave you a completely wrong answer, created way more work for your team, and then actually invoiced you for every single word they spoke, you'd fire them on the spot, right? So why in the world are we letting AI companies get away with exactly the same thing? When an AI hallucinates or gets stuck in some infinite loop, under a consumption model, the customer still pays for the compute power it took to generate that garbage output. It makes absolutely no sense. So the crucial point is really simple. Activity does not equal value. Just because a machine is whirring away and processing thousands of tokens doesn't mean your customer is getting any return on their investment. This consumption model introduces some wild unpredictability into budgets, and frankly, buyers are terrified. They are terrified of ending up with what we call shelfware. You know, those tools they pay six figures for that drain compute budgets but never actually deliver a tangible ROI? Luckily, there is a definitive cure for this pricing nightmare. Section 2. The solution. Outcome-based pricing. If seats are dead and tokens are a trap, what's actually left? Let's define this new paradigm. Outcome-based pricing is a model where customers pay only after achieving a clearly defined, measurable business outcome. You completely stop charging for the privilege of just accessing the software. You stop charging for the background compute tokens. Instead, you charge exclusively for the actual guaranteed result. The input is finally transformed into a guaranteed output. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept in the real world. Look at how Intercom deployed this. When they launched their AI customer service agent, Finn, they didn't charge by the seat. They didn't charge by the message volume. No, they put a strict 99-cent price tag on a single outcome. One solve ticket. If the AI fails to solve the customer's problem, there is absolutely no charge to the buyer. Zero. This pay-per-resolution model puts the buyer and the seller in perfect alignment. It forces the vendor to focus obsessively on improving their AI's resolution rate because, well, that's literally the only way they make money. And Intercom isn't alone here. We are seeing overwhelming evidence of this trend across multiple sectors. Sierra is pricing based on successfully completed tasks. ChargeFlow is charging a percentage of actually recovered revenue. And it goes way beyond just pure software, too. Even physical, heavy industries are adopting this. Hitachi Rail, They own physical trains, but they only charge operators when the trains actually run on time. They rely on predictive AI and IoT sensors to maintain that punctuality, completely shifting the risk away from the customer and directly onto their own technology. It's a real game changer. If you ever need to pitch this model to a CFO, you need to present the ultimate weapon, the seesaw of costs and value. Outcome-based pricing tells a flawlessly clean story to finance teams. It balances perfectly. When costs rise, it's only because downtime fell, or tickets were successfully resolved, or revenue actively climbed. You are no longer selling access to software. You are selling guaranteed, measurable ROI. Let's move to and see how this builds into a practical strategy. Section 3, the Pricing Pivot Playbook. Now, understanding the theory is great, but how do you actually deploy this thing without bankrupting your own company? Well, here is your 3-step playbook for making the pricing pivot. First, you need to define the metric. Second, perfect your attribution. And third, utilize a hybrid model. Let's break each of these tactical steps down so you can protect your margins while giving buyers exactly what they want. Tactic 1, you absolutely must define an unambiguous success metric. The absolute biggest risk of outcome-based pricing is ambiguity. For example, Zendesk also charges for AI ticket resolutions, but they actually faced massive customer pushback initially. Why? Because it wasn't clear what a resolution actually meant. I mean, if the AI closes a ticket, but the customer comes back angry 10 minutes later, is that resolved? You must establish ironclad definitions of success with your buyers before you ever start billing. If you don't, you're going to face endless disputes and permanently lose their trust. Tactic 2, perfect your attribution. You have to be able to definitively prove that your specific AI caused the outcome. If your product operates in a really complex environment where multiple different factors influence the final result, you cannot just guess. You must build the underlying data infrastructure to isolate your AI's specific contribution. Basically, if you can't prove you did the work, you can't send the invoice. In Tactic 3, use a hybrid model to scale. If jumping straight to pure outcome pricing feels a little too risky for your margins right now, this is your blueprint. Charge a fixed subscription baseline that's just enough to cover your basic compute and server costs, then add an outcome-based percentage on top for the realized savings or generated revenue. This hybrid approach is brilliant because it stabilizes your cash flow while perfectly aligning with how finance teams actually construct their annual budgets. Let's synthesize the core takeaways from what we've explored today. The era of charging customers for the mere privilege of sitting in a software interface is entirely over. Done. When you shift to outcome-based pricing, you completely eliminate the buyer's fear of paying for useless shelfware. You drastically shorten those massive enterprise sales cycles because you're actively sharing the risk with the buyer. And honestly, most importantly, you align your company's financial success directly with the actual customer value you generate. I want to leave you with a final dramatic reality check to provoke some thought about your own systems. If your AI product magically automated 90% of your customers' workflow tomorrow, does your revenue skyrocket or does your billing model collapse? If the answer is collapse, you need to rewrite your pricing strategy today. Stop fighting for arbitrary seat licenses and start capturing the real value of your products. If you found this explainer helpful, hit subscribe to keep learning with us, and leave a comment below. What is the most ridiculous, unpredictable software bill your company has ever been hit with? Let's discuss it down in the comments. Keep building, and thanks so much for joining me.